The Panama Canal is vital to our country. It's being operated by China. China. And they've abused it. They've abused that gift. It should have never been made, by the way. We need Greenland for national security purposes. I've been told that for a long time, long before I even ran. I mean, people have been talking about it for a long time.
In 2023, a shipping company paid $4 million just to cut the line at the Panama Canal. This waterway is a lifeline for global trade, yet the US no longer controls it. Now, Trump wants it back, by force if necessary. With China's grip tightening, a geopolitical storm is brewing. Let's dive in. The Panama Canal isn't just any waterway, it's one of the most strategic routes on the planet. It connects the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, letting ships cut straight through Central America instead of wasting weeks sailing around South America. That shortcut saves time, money, and fuel, making it a critical piece of global trade. But here's where things get messy. Trump isn't happy about how the US is being treated when it comes to the canal. During his inauguration speech, he didn't hold back, calling the decision to hand it over to Panama a foolish gift that should have never happened. He insists that the US is being ripped off and that Panama has broken its promises to America. But for Trump, this isn't just about trade, it's about control. The canal isn't just a shortcut for cargo, it's a choke point that can decide who dominates global shipping and military power. And now, China is getting too close. Over the years, China has tightened its grip on Panama, pouring money into ports, infrastructure, and strategic projects. That's a problem for Trump, and he wants to take action before it's too late. But Panama isn't backing down, making it clear that the canal is theirs and theirs alone. And with Trump refusing to rule out military force, the situation is getting more intense by the day. So, where does China fit into all of this? Well, this is where things get even more interesting. China has been expanding its influence over the canal for years, and Trump sees this as a direct threat to US interests. While the Panama Canal Authority, which is an autonomous agency of the Panamanian government, controls the canal, China operates two of the most crucial ports on either side of the waterway. These ports, owned by a Hong Kong-based company, control cargo movement, customs clearance, and ship coordination. Trump argues that this effectively puts China in charge of the canal, despite the fact that it was originally built by the US for its own military and commercial use. And here's what really has Trump fired up. China isn't just investing in ports, it's also building infrastructure projects all around Panama, strengthening its ties with the government. Some worry that this could give Beijing even more leverage over trade and security decisions in the region. If tensions between the US and China escalate, there's real concern that China could use its influence to disrupt or even restrict access to the canal. And that's exactly the kind of scenario Trump wants to prevent. Trump's concern isn't just about economics, it's about national security. He claims that in the event of a military conflict, China could use its influence over the canal to disrupt American operations. This isn't entirely far-fetched, considering China's wider Belt and Road Initiative, where it has been securing control over key infrastructure worldwide. The worry is that if tensions between the US and China escalate, whether over Taiwan or something else, China could block American ships from passing through. And that would be a massive problem for the US military, which relies heavily on the canal for moving naval forces between the Pacific and Atlantic. So what does Trump actually want to do? He has refused to rule out military action to take back control of the canal. During a press conference, he said when pressed, he can assure that the US won't use military or economic coercion to gain control of the canal again. His argument, economic security. He believes the US should never have given up the canal and that taking it back would restore America's strategic power in the region. But would the world just sit back and let this happen? Panama's government has already pushed back hard, with Foreign Minister Javier Martinez Acha making it clear that only Panamanians control the canal, and that's how it will stay. But that's not the only obstacle Trump faces. Any attempt to take back the canal could spark a massive international backlash, putting the US in direct conflict with not just Panama, but China as well. Given China's deep economic ties to the canal, Beijing wouldn't just stand by and watch if Trump tried to take control. And then there's the legal issue. The treaty that transferred the canal to Panama doesn't have a clause allowing the US to reclaim it. The only way to take it back would be through force or extreme political pressure, and both options come with serious risks. But there's more. Trump isn't just looking south, he also has his eyes on Greenland. That's right, Trump believes Greenland is vital to US national security, and he has revived his push to acquire the massive Arctic island. Back in 2019, when he first floated the idea of buying Greenland, it was met with laughter and outrage. Denmark, which technically owns Greenland, shut the idea down immediately. But Trump isn't letting it go. He has even suggested that Denmark doesn't have the legal right to own Greenland, and that if they do, they should give it up for the sake of the free world. For Trump, Greenland is about dominance in the Arctic. As the ice melts, new trade routes are opening up, and both Russia and China are expanding their presence in the region. The island is also rich in rare earth minerals, which are crucial for modern technology and dominated by China's supply chains. Trump sees securing Greenland as a way to counter Beijing's grip on these critical resources. But Denmark and Greenland's leaders have repeatedly rejected the idea, making it clear that they have no intention of selling or giving up control. So, Why does Trump want Greenland so badly? The answer is military power and resources. Greenland sits in a strategic position in the Arctic, giving the country that controls it a major advantage in the region. With the Arctic ice melting due to climate change, new shipping routes are opening up, and Russia and China are both increasing their presence there. Trump argues that the US needs Greenland to stay ahead of these rivals. Greenland is also rich in natural resources, including rare earth minerals, oil, and gas, resources that could be incredibly valuable to the US economy. But would Denmark or Greenland ever agree to this? Not likely. Denmark's Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen has already dismissed Trump's offer, calling it absurd and making it clear that Greenland is not for sale, and Greenland's own leaders, who govern the island with a large degree of autonomy, have repeatedly stated that they have no interest in becoming part of the US. So, what happens next? Could Trump use economic pressure to force the issue? He has already hinted at imposing tariffs on Denmark if they don't cooperate, but whether that would be enough to convince them remains to be seen. If Trump is determined to secure Greenland for strategic reasons, how far would he be willing to go to take back control of something even more valuable, the Panama Canal? China isn't just sitting back while Trump talks about retaking the Panama Canal. It's been making moves for years to secure its grip on global trade, and if Trump pushes too hard, China has plenty of ways to hit back without ever needing direct confrontation. It already controls 2 of the 5 major ports near the canal and is working on securing a third. These ports handle cargo movement, customs, and logistics, meaning China can still influence trade even without controlling the canal directly. But here's where things get really interesting. China isn't just betting on Panama, it's also investing heavily in alternative trade routes that could make the canal less essential over time. Take Mexico's Tehuantepec Interoceanic Railway, for example. This newly rebuilt railway cuts straight across Mexico, allowing cargo to move between the Pacific and Atlantic in hours instead of waiting weeks at the Panama Canal. Then there's Honduras, where China is backing a transcontinental railway, and Colombia, where it's planning another route to bypass Panama altogether. These aren't just small side projects, they're part of a much bigger strategy. And let's not forget the Nicaragua Canal. The idea of a second canal, controlled by China, was shelved years ago after its billionaire backer mysteriously lost his fortune. But if tensions rise, China could revive the project and create a serious rival to the Panama Canal. China is playing the long game. It doesn't need to fight over the canal, it just needs to slowly reduce America's leverage. While Trump talks about taking back control, China is quietly reshaping global trade in its favor, and that might be the bigger power move. The world is watching closely, and China in particular will be paying very close attention. If Trump moves to take control of the Panama Canal, how would China respond? Could this trigger a new Cold War between the 2 superpowers? These are the questions that will define the next few years in global politics. This story is far from over, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Is Trump about to reshape the global order, or is this just another bold power play? Will the Panama Canal and Greenland become battlegrounds for the next great geopolitical showdown? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you love breaking down the biggest power moves on the planet, hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe so you never miss what happens next.